Welcome to Faith Focals. My name is Faith. I'm a Christian who streams computer games. Today we're going back to the game Minecraft. I started the stream, the lifespan of my stream here on Minecraft, and we're coming back today to check out the new update, the 1.17 update. So this is a world that I started before 1.17 came out. So we're going to do some exploring today, head out beyond the borders of whatever I've loaded, and see what new stuff we can find from the 1.17 update. Let me go ahead and chuck those in there because I've got 2 sets of iron boots apparently. I don't remember why I have those. And I understand that the new update, and I want to check and make sure that I've got the right windows up where I can see them here. I understand the new update is there's been something unexpected where let me go ahead and bring my diamond since I'm going to be exploring, and I guess I've got as much food as I want. I was already exploring on one of the snapshot, so I already have some glowberries in my inventory. I don't remember where I was when I picked those up, so that'll be interesting. But let's see, I lose my train of thought all the time and it's already starting, so oh boy. And yes, they apparently there's some sort of issue where with the new updates the level of diamonds in the world is rarer. Looks like it's turning night than it should be, than they want it to be. So they are going to be fixing that soon. So we're going to get a chance, I think, to create a chunk or so in the world where the diamonds are rarer than necessary. So that'll be a dubious rare feature that we're going to have in our world. And let's see, I know there's lava here. Just trying to figure out, do I want to improve the amount of coal I have in my inventory? Because that's 27. That seems like a bunch, but in recent playthroughs of private games, I've gone through coal pretty quickly. Regarding what I want to talk about on the stream, whenever I stream, I have this little conflict that comes up. Because when I first started the streams, and I think I've talked about this before actually, but when I first started streaming, I wasn't sure if I would, yeah, there's a lava, if I would be one of those channels that has no viewers and never gets viewers, but I wanted to have some place where I could just put my beliefs, and sometime in the future someone might come across what I believe and get an accurate idea of what a Christian is based on what I've said on the channel. So it wasn't so important to me that what I was streaming be immediately discovered by people, by viewers. But what was important is that I was just faithful to put content out there. So anytime I make a stream, I consider the stream to be successful. And do I have, yes, I do have my own crafting table. So now I think I'm free to, I do have a boat. So I think I'm free to go to the surface and see what I can discover here. See what kind of new chunks we can explore. I want to say I probably went in the direction of the jungle last stream. I'm not sure if I'm remembering properly, but there was a... I'm surprised by that smoke. I don't know why there's smoke over there, but definitely creepers are a problem. Get back. There we go. Thought I heard some noise there, but it's just the sheep. Oh, hello, friend. I think I'm going to see if I can not antagonize those two. because they'll despawn eventually. But that little smoke cloud that I saw earlier was surprising. So anyway, I think in this direction, there's savanna. And then beyond the savanna, there's mesa. And then kind of over that way, I think, is, at the other side of the mesa is jungle. So I think I would have explored the jungle. So let me go ahead and hit the ocean. See what I can find out in the direction of the ocean. Maybe I'll find some new chunks with some new blocks. Maybe the goal today is to see if... well, I probably would have come across deep slate before, right? I don't have any in inventory. Let's see if we can find some deep slate in the game. Meanwhile, I was talking about what I want to talk about. And there's this tension whenever I do a stream. Like I say, first priority is putting my beliefs out where they can be found. But now that I've been streaming for a while, I have found some people have been interested in the streams. I do get viewers sometimes. We get a chance to chat, which is great. And in addition to showing people what a Christian is like through talking about my beliefs, which there's a lot of us Christians talking about what we believe on YouTube, I also want to give a good idea of what a Christian is by just being a good Christian, by having good interactions with people. I don't know if that temple is so obvious because I've seen it before or not. I don't think I recognize that area, so I'm guessing that's new terrain. So I'll just go over there and maybe we can set up another mine, and then I'll see how I navigate the nether to connect with my current nether network, because that has always been an adventure in past streams. Let's see, so my tension is between expressing what I believe and interacting. So I could either be talking or interacting. And if there's not a lot of people in chat, then I may as well be talking, because then the stream gets recorded and people watch it later on YouTube and it becomes valuable even though there's nobody immediately available. At least that's how I think of it. But if there's people in chat, then those conversations are conversations that I may never get a chance to have again. So I can always talk about what I was going to talk about today again, but I may never get a chance to talk with this person, or we may never get a chance to discuss what we discussed today if I leave off the conversation for the next time I see them. So there's that side where I want to do my best to have those conversations when I can. And on the one hand, I want to talk about my beliefs. On the other hand, I want to find out what other people believe, because I care about understanding other people. I may as well check out the temple. Maybe there will be something interesting in the chests in here. Of course, I got to remember the booby traps. I don't hear any monsters. Okay. So far, so good. And then I don't remember, where the trap starts and where it ends. So I'll just take the careful approach here. Okay. Nearly there. So there's that. Nothing really interesting. There's an emerald. A saddle could be useful because I haven't been able to access any horses yet. And that should be everything from that one. And now that I've opened my ideas to a saddle now that armor was tempting me. And I don't see anything. Well, the gunpowder could be useful for TNT. Just my question is there anything else that I want to drop? I don't know. Well, I've got a lot of sugar at home, so I'll leave that. Okay. Pick up all the sand that I can see then. And I think I'll climb the stairs before getting that one because I don't want to have to reach too far. That doesn't seem to be working. I'm going to have to build my own way back up in a minute. There we go. Emerald string, I think. There we go. So that should be everything. And back to the surface. So I guess I have a conflict between importance and urgency is the truth behind what I'm dealing with here. On the one hand, it's important to me to express my beliefs. On the other hand, I may never get a chance to have a conversation with you or a particular conversation with you again. So if you chat and stream, then I'm motivated to drop what I'm doing and have that conversation. I can always talk about the same belief in a different time. So today I'm kind of extra aware of that possibility because there's something I would like to do, but it's kind of on the interaction side, which is the side that I cannot control. Okay, so this desert is shaped weird. It doesn't allow some of these nice biomes to connect. I think sometimes these oak forests have mansions, which have interesting artifacts in them, but not all of them do, so I don't know that this one will, but I'm just kind of curious for that reason. So there is something that I would like to happen, but it's something I can't control. I can control what I talk about, so I have an idea for what I want to talk about today. But once I get started, if that event happens that I'm hoping will, then I'm going to drop everything I'm talking about, and I'm going to have to continue it in the future. I'm thinking I'm seeing the edges of the oak, of the dark oak biome here. And I am not seeing the mansion that I was thinking about. It looks pretty small. So I think I'll head out in that direction. And in that forest is where, well, there's a nice cave. In that forest is where I'm going to be putting my mine. Probably that cave. Let's get to that cave pretty quickly. Okay, how do I get down from here without breaking my neck? There we go. And I don't tend to run, but I am tempted to, except there's this steep cliff face here. Run like a bunny. And I'm hearing a skeleton, so I wonder if that fella's nearby. This cave looks like it may go down. I may go caving instead of mining. And how many arrows do I have? 5? And I'm out of torches, so every so often I'm going to bump the wrong key because I've been playing so many different survival games, and each one has a different key for its inventory. I'm probably going to want to update my level of coal in my inventory here, so I'll go ahead and mine some of that. So what I wanted to talk about is in the last stream. Okay, I must have had my torch there already. In my last stream, I was talking about the self. It was kind of in response to someone who's made an appearance on the stream before, and so I was giving my Christian beliefs about the self and what the Bible teaches about the self. Because I do believe that God gave each of us our self. That's one of the things that God has created as a gift for us. And we each have our desires. And often when we pursue those desires, people say that we're being selfish, which, yeah, that is our unique expression. And so I was wondering, what does the Bible say about the self, since we have this idea of selfishness being a bad thing? But we also, God gave us the self. How would it be a bad thing if that's what God gave us? So in the last stream, I went in depth about what the Bible teaches about the self. I believe that God takes care of of each of us, of ourselves, that He promises to meet our needs and even meets our wants if they're good for us. However, He also wants us to dedicate our whole self to Him, because recognizing that He is faithful. Saw some husks out in the desert out there. I wonder if any of them will pay me a visit. I think that's the name for those brown zombies out there in the desert, the husks. And I keep badgering myself because I've gotten into the habit of digging the stone around the ores, which just clutters up my inventory. I do it privately, but I don't know that it's great stream content for you to watch me go around what it is that I'm looking for. So we'll see how many times I fall into that habit. But at the end of my my stream last time, where I was talking about the self, I was responding to this person's worldview, which basically is that he worships himself. That's the worldview. And I was looking at a Bible verse that says that following fleshly lusts is actually warring against the soul, the self, the word that I was understanding to be used in the New Testament to represent the self. Now, I've played a little bit in 1.17 privately, but I was using the snapshot, the data, not the snapshot, the data pack that's supposed to give you a peek at the 1.18 cave system that they're working on. So we've got some iron here, and it's higher than I expect, but I think my expectations are being set. Look at this, I'm going around again. Are being set by the data pack. So this is I was wondering if I was in the right chunk or not, but I think I am. And now I've got a dilemma, because I've got these iron bits that do not match up cleanly with my iron ingots. Definitely don't want the granite. So I'm going to have, I can throw that cobble away. There we go. We've delayed that dilemma for a bit. Oh, there was some glow squid down here. I understand they spawn wherever the water is covered by some surface. So whenever the water is not under the sky directly. And there I go, looking at the wrong button for my inventory again. So I was saying based on a verse that I was seeing out of the Bible, it's not a great idea to, well, the verse was talking about fleshly lusts, which I didn't get a chance to really define in what I was talking. I was talking about the self, and usually we associate fleshly lusts and the self with the same thing. I think usually they do run the same, especially in our Western society that teaches that people have evolved, so that leads to the idea that people are nothing more than chemical combinations. So all that there is material, nothing spiritual, nothing immaterial. Anything that we perceive about the self is a series of chemical misfirings in the brain. That's it. We're just accidents, basically, is what the theory of evolution teaches. I'm going to put some water in here, kind of make an infinite water source just so I can clear out all the water that's falling down here. And I think I'll start from the top, because this will be the start of my mine. Actually, probably still, the ore generation is still operating under 1.16 principles. So I can do my mine the normal way. I've been trying a new type of mining with the ore generation the way it's going to be in 1.18 based on the data packs. This water is not falling the way I expected. Is there more water up there? No, it's just slow. So then I'll get this water down here and everything should be dry eventually. There we go. So I can go with, every so often I think I hear my dog jingling his collar, so I'm just making sure he's okay. Let's see, which tangent do I want to get back on, or do I want to get back on the main track? Let me go ahead and go back to the main track I was talking about, which was, I think, because we're taught that everything is material based on evolution, then I'm trying to remember how the old way was that I used to do this. I think I used to stand on 2 blocks and just dig straight down. And it's a little bit more dangerous to do this from inside a mine. Fortunately, I've got the branches all lit up, but since I don't have sunlight, then there's a chance that I'll get monsters spawning in the cave that gets dark like this. So I think I'll go ahead and make some light as I go. There's nothing that can spawn on the sides of the cave, I think, because nothing can cling. Oh, there's the deep slate. Nothing can cling to the sides. So yes, this is the area where the diamonds are probably going to be extra rare, because they accidentally got made based on 1.18 ore generation. And this is unique, because I think in 1.18 we're not going to see coal mingled with deep slate like we have here. But for the present, with the current ore generation, they've got these special textured blocks that represent the coal. Do I have room for redstone? No. How much lower do I go before? Tell you what, I'll go ahead and break these and then just keep going straight down. Shouldn't be too long before I hit bedrock. There we go. Here we are. Okay. So I'll just fill this in, level this out, create a little base down here. Then I can figure out what I want to do regarding mining. Oh, I'm not all the way down at bedrock level. Not at the first bedrock level. Okay. So of course, if all we are is matter, the way that evolution teaches, then all of our desires are essentially going to be quote unquote fleshly lusts, right? Because the way the Bible uses the word flesh, it's talking about literally the physical person, the meat that makes you. And naturally, when we're keeping that alive, we have certain needs that we're looking to fulfill, like food, and the body creates certain desires for reproduction, those kinds of things. Those get lumped in. Self-preservation, all the things that we associate with animals, basically. That's what the Bible seems to refer to when it's talking about fleshly lusts. And like I was saying in my stream last time, God allows people to make provision for their physical wants. That's not sin in and of itself, but we've got to do it the way that God wants us to. For instance, physical relations are supposed to be between one man, one woman who are married, according to the Bible. So the Bible says we're to submit ourselves fully to God. We're to love God with our whole heart, soul, which I think that word soul could also be, let's see, I think I want to kind of create a pool where I can put water and then fall in safely. So this level of bedrock here prevents me from making the edges of the pool as wide as I want to. There we go. And then I'll build this out a little bit wider. And now I'm going to figure out where I left off the last sentence I was talking about. I was talking about the Bible telling us to love God with our whole, with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And that word soul is the one that I think could be interchangeable with self. And the way I was distinguishing it when I was talking was to say that's the part of us that is not there if we die. When what's left is a corpse, our self is absent. And that's the way I would understand that. So that would be in the Old Testament, the Hebrew word nephesh. In the New Testament, the Greek word psyche, which it's interesting that we get the word psychological, kind of the study of that part of us, I guess. We think of psychological as being a mind kind of thing, a brain kind of thing, but looking at the word psyche, I believe it refers to the self, the part of us that is gone when all that's left is our flesh, the corpse we've left behind. So I was talking about that, and I was talking, there's this verse in the Bible that says to abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul. And I'm looking at my understanding of the words in the Bible, it's telling me that based on what the Bible says, and it's up to you whether or not you believe what the Bible says. The Bible's telling me that if I value myself, then I want to stay away from those things that on their surface seem like they benefit the self. I'm going to smelt this. Oop, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to smelt this iron, raw iron, and see if I can lump that with the iron ore I have in my inventory. So I'm going to need 1 coal, and I'm going to need 2 oak planks, and then I'm going to need some sticks, a couple sticks. So those can go there, this can go there. And I'll start with the sticks first because they burn the fastest. And then I'll have room for my 2 planks. And then I'll hang out for a bit. I can check this. No, okay. I have enough room for the redstone too. And I think that the deep slate is supposed to act like stone. So I think I'll experiment while I'm waiting here and see if I can make a stone pickaxe to replace the stone pickaxe that I've got in inventory, which I probably should be using up anyway. So, a couple sticks, a couple of those. Okay, it works. And then I'll get back my wooden chest. And this is all done. Oh, one more piece of coal there. And what did I pick up? I don't need that. And I can fill in this water with what I have. How about I go up to the surface? I mean, to where I had that water pool that I made. And then I can get infinite water. So we're going to water ladder. When I started the stream, I thought this was the bee's knees, and now it seems kind of tedious, but it's what I've got on hand for now. Oh, and I lost my torch. Okay. Here we are. Okay. How do I get 2 buckets of water down there? So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to go pick up another. And then I'm just going to go straight down here. And then we'll see whether or not going back up is survivable. That'll be interesting. Do I have enough air to get back to the surface? Okay, I think I'll make it, especially if I can get the water early. There we go. So I can breathe. I'm just going to take the fast way down. Okay. Did it. Okay, so I'm trying to think if I covered everything I wanted to before I actually get into the main point that I wanted to talk about. And what I'm thinking actually is I'm going to want to establish a real ladder. So I think that'll be on this side. So I'll build up a pillar for the ladder. Tell you what, let's use some of this deep slate stuff. So while I was commenting on this verse at the end of my last stream, talking about this person's belief system, saying based on the Bible, it seems like there would be some deception in the idea that you can worship yourself, especially if you're pursuing those fleshly lusts. And I feel like I didn't get a chance to fully explain the definition of those, which is why I'm taking the tangent now. But at the end of what I was saying there, I said a few things that you can tell from listening to the stream that I probably wasn't really on board with what was coming out of my own mouth. And anytime that I'm talking, I feel like I talk slowly, and I kind of stutter sometimes, and I use the word a lot, so that's something I'm going to have to eventually learn to take out of my vocabulary. So hopefully with time, as I get used to streaming. But and now I'm trying to avoid using the word I'm trying to apply a pause instead of saying you can hear how successful that is. I think another did slip in there. But while I was talking, there were three things I said, kind of really quick, one after the other, that in retrospect I'm thinking those just don't ring true. And so I wanted to go ahead and clarify them. Hello, Alex. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. So I wanted to clarify what I meant at the end of my stream, because what I said was that, one, I don't want to judge other people's beliefs. And two, well, let me go ahead and say where the discrepancy is there, because you can tell if I was saying, well, based on the Bible, there's some deception in your belief. Well, that sounds a lot like me judging, right? So what am I talking about when I say I don't want to judge somebody else's beliefs? Alex, since you're here, how are you doing? And what are your plans for the weekend? Alex is a good friend, so I get to see him occasionally in real life, but I want to get a chance to talk to him too. So I'm going to go ahead and ask how you're doing, Alex. I'll go ahead and continue talking as I'm holding on here. Oh, okay, I'm doing well. Miss R. Zion's Hope Bible Studies. Yeah, over at the, we got a chance to have these prayer meetings, and several times, several different speakers would be at the prayer meetings that we were at, and one in particular, David, tends to speak on current events. It's really special. So I get it, Alex, and it would be nice for you to be there too. I feel really informed by what we're talking about, and it's a good opportunity to pray with one another and be aware of what each of us is going through. That's really the best opportunity to interact with people that we're familiar with, right, is from those prayer meetings. Gives us a good chance to get to know the people we're around personally. No plans for the weekend yet. I'm playing Star Wars: The Old Republic now. That game doesn't get old for you, does it? Is there anything that, like, are you in the end game? Because I imagine as interested as you are in Star Wars, you're definitely not in the beginning tutorial section. Okay, so this should be enough ladders, I think. And next, my next goal will be creating a chest. Because in these survival games, inventory is always the issue. Okay, good. That works well. That works too, the drop pull there. And I'm starting to get hungry, but not hungry enough to eat yet, so let's go ahead and make a chest. I'm throwing away all the pieces that I need because I just don't have the room for them. All right, I do that sometimes too, where I may, well, usually if I'm playing a single player game, if I'm kind of mid-game on my character, I tend to get bored of them and then I quit and then I start from the beginning again. But I think when I've played MMORPGs, I've just created several characters so I can try the different routes that they've given for where you start from. So I can relate to wanting to explore all the different options there. That's beneficial if you've... I don't know how Star Wars The Old Republic has... I know a lot of MMORPGs have the support class and the damage class and the tank class or whatever, and so you can pull up the right alt for if you're doing something with friends. Do you tend to play Star Wars multiplayer, Alex, or do you tend to solo your way through the game? And just checking the surface here, seeing if it's daylight yet. Now that I don't have the water, I've got to climb up all by myself. And then I saw some... Oh, dripstone. That's what the blue was that I saw. Can I make use of that? Well, I've already got infinite water, but I can maybe prepare it for if I have lava later. I tend to solo through the game, so that's the way I tend to do games. It's more natural to me to just go at my own pace and see the story of the game at my own pace. I find if I do wind up getting help from a person, then they're dashing through the story, and I miss a lot of it. So it's sometimes more fun for me to just go it alone and go slow. Okay, so still night, it looks like, unless it's a new night, unless it's already been day and night. And then when I get some lava, I'll put it in there, and I'll make a cauldron, and then I should be able to start a very, very slow lava farm using the dripstone. So at the end of my last stream, I said that I didn't want to judge other belief systems, and yet here I was, based on what the Bible was saying, suggesting that someone's beliefs had some deception in it. And the question I think that comes up that would be natural is, well, isn't that judging that person's belief system? So I wanted to say that, for one thing, the idea of not judging, of trying to avoid judging, is actually a Christian idea. It comes out of Christianity. And sometimes I watch TV. I'm realizing this chest is in the corner, and I tend to use those corners. So let me reposition that. There we go. Now I can start putting all this extra stuff in there. And I might want the gravel. Gravel can sometimes be useful when digging around. And I want trapdoors, because I mine with trapdoors. I can put the redstone away. So the concept of trying not to judge people is a Christian concept, comes from the Bible. And so when I watch TV, sometimes you see a character on TV say, "Don't judge me." And I just think it's funny, because if that character is not a Christian, then they have no reason to insist that nobody judge them. But if that character is a Christian or is talking to a Christian, then whoever the Christian is should be trying to avoid judging. Based on what the Bible says. But even that one, I want to make it clear, because when Jesus said, don't judge, the full context of what he says, and I'm paraphrasing a bit because I'm talking off the top of my head, but he said, don't judge lest you be judged. You don't want to be judged also. He said, for with the same judgment you use, you're going to be judged. And for the with the measure that you're using, that's the measure that's going to be used against you. And then he went on to say immediately after that verse, if you want to look it up, is Matthew 7:1, and I think I've quoted 1 and 2 here. And then immediately he goes on to say that if you see, he was using an example from carpentry. Jesus' dad was Joseph, and Joseph was a carpenter. So it makes sense that Jesus spent some time in his dad's carpentry work when he was younger. As a kid, the dad tries to teach the son good skills for when he gets a job later to grow up. So back in that time, sons would often learn their father's trade. So Jesus would have been in the carpentry shop when he was younger, or whatever the carpenter was doing. And I've mentioned before, the job carpenter, the way the words that the Bible uses, it's not necessarily just someone who makes furniture. It's more like a construction worker. So 4, 5, 6, and 7. I saw in a video that apparently it is most efficient to have blocks that are 7, hallways that are 7 apart from each other and not 4. Now I think 4, you're more likely to see all of the ores, but if it's more efficient to go by 7s, that's something I'm experimenting with here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I make 3 more. There we go. So Jesus was using this carpentry analogy when he was talking to the people. He said, if you see someone with a speck in his eye, so this person you're looking at, they're not seeing clearly because they've got a speck in their eye. The King James Version calls it a mote, but the idea is like a piece of dust. You see this person with this speck in their eye, be careful that you don't have a plank in your own eye. Hello, Truth for Satan Ministries. Good to see you back. And I said at the start of the stream that I kind of had 2 plans here. I had something that I wanted to clarify from the past stream, but also I've been keeping in mind, I feel like whenever you've been on the stream, you've kind of had some homework. When I've had when I had the first stream where I got to chat with you, I asked you a barrage of questions, and I'm grateful that you were willing to answer those for me. And then the second stream, I kind of already got into the topic of my stream before I had a chance to interact with you. You got 1 question in, but I was already on my way through most of what I was saying. So if you really wanted the value of that stream, you had to go back and check that out. So I was wondering today, I know you said that you had questions about Christianity. I was wondering if you wanted to go ahead and ask any of those questions on this stream, and I wanted to commit to giving you the time to do that if you had the time, if you were interested in doing that, because I've gotten an opportunity to ask a lot of questions about your beliefs, and certainly I'm interested in learning more, but you haven't really had the same benefit there, so I want to make sure that I'm being fair with you. I did have a topic that I was talking about before you came on, but I can always revisit that topic in another stream, so I want to make sure that I get the chance to interact with you properly. Okay, can I explain how the crucifixion of Jesus is just and fair? So what is your objection to the crucifixion of Jesus being just and fair? How do you understand the situation? Because I get the sense you probably have an understanding of some of what Christianity teaches on that. So let's see. And I got myself in trouble trying this mining strategy before. It's hard for me to keep in my head, so hopefully I don't get myself turned around again this time. Isn't it an injustice to punish the innocent, Jesus, on behalf of the guilty for the atonement of sins? I would agree with the principle of that statement. Because here's what's kind of crossing my mind as I'm thinking. We Christians believe in a God who's got several qualities that are, I think sin complicates things. God is just, and God is, we say, based on what the Bible says, God is love. And therefore, God is also mercy. Mercy is a quality that you show when you're showing love. I'm just, as I'm talking, I'm counting at the same time. So this is very bad multitasking. So those things ordinarily have no conflict with each other. But when the person that you love, in this case humanity, is betraying you, then how do you be perfectly just and perfectly loving and perfectly merciful at the same time? And I'm just kind of curious, what is your inclination as far as the answer to that question? If you were in the position of God, what would your answer be if the person that you loved betrayed you? How would you respond to that person? And that gives me time to math out this mine while I'm holding on here. And I'm out of sticks. I'm going to go ahead to the to my base here and make sure that I've got everything I want for while I'm in there. If I was in God's permission, I would be able to forgive without demanding a blood sacrifice. Doesn't that make me morally superior? I don't necessarily know why making a blood sacrifice is morally superior or inferior. Because I've made the point before on this channel that I believe that God is the standard of morality. So based on that principle, then what God says, and it's, again, not arbitrary because it is based on his unchanging nature, not just on his whims. But then what God says is what is moral. And God created animals. God created humans. God created blood. So God knows the purpose for which he created all of those things. I'm not arguing that blood sacrifice is more moral or less moral or anything, but I do believe that God is the moral supreme, basically. So you'd have to explain why choosing not to demand a blood sacrifice would elevate your morality above God's morality. But let's say that you chose not to demand a blood sacrifice, how would you be perfectly just and perfectly merciful at the same time? Okay, so I can make some torches here. And I can compress some of these pickaxes. And I could make an iron pickaxe, and then I'd feel better for when that stone pickaxe breaks. Blood sacrifice is the act of passing blame and judgment on an innocent victim. So, okay, I don't disagree with that statement. So that is, I would agree with that statement. And again, what I'm trying to sort through is what is the alternative. So in the hypothetical case I'm talking about, there is someone who is actually guilty. And assuming that one of us is taking the position of God, if we're going to say that we're morally superior to God, then we've got this question of how do we be merciful, which is a moral virtue, and just, which is a moral virtue. How do we be perfectly both? Because mercy would ask us to save this person who has betrayed us, and justice would ask us to punish this person who has betrayed us. So how would we balance those two traits? Let's see, I think I'll leave these out here. I could use them in there, but then I'm using up spaces. I'm fine. Mine is small enough, it's no problem for me to come out. I think at this point, especially with the construct of Christianity, the way that Christianity explains it, I don't see I don't see how this innocent victim is a moral problem. So I want to see what what possible alternatives there are. The alternative is to forgive without having to demand blood sacrifice. So how does that appease justice then? If someone has betrayed you, and I'm going to go ahead and ramp it up a little bit. I'm going to say that this was a act of hurt against you. It has definitely done a physical harm. And on the one hand, I'm not saying that God can be physically harmed by us, but I'm saying that we have, by choosing ourselves over God, we are doing everything in our power to remove God from the picture. So that level of betrayal. How does simply forgiving without punishment, or would you have another punishment in mind? If someone had attempted murder, then what would be the just way to respond to that? And also to be merciful. What is wrong with saying, throw me in hell, I want to pay for my own sins? Well, for one thing, and Satanism being an individualistic belief system, I think this should this should fit in well with what you believe. One person can't make that decision for all of humanity. So if you want to make that decision for yourself, I think God does give you the freedom to do that. That's why on this channel I don't want to give the impression of shunning someone who has decided that they're going to stick with their own beliefs. However, it's not just one person who has committed this wrong against God. I've betrayed God in the same way, and I don't want to go to hell. And so for God to be perfectly merciful and perfectly just, certainly it is not a violation of his perfect justice and his perfect mercy for one person to say, you know what, that's fine, I don't want it, that's fine. Then God is perfectly just and merciful to have an offer made that is rejected. Now you're talking about this innocent, and I get the impression that you're seeing Jesus as an individual himself, right? I don't get the impression that you're seeing Jesus quite in the context that the Bible does. Are you familiar with the sense in which I'm talking about, where Jesus is a member of the Trinity? And this is where I could use my crafting table, because I need to make trapdoors, and I don't have the means to do so here. Okay, I'm aware of the Holy Trinity, yes, because I think that answers a lot about the morality of this particular innocent sacrifice. Because if I were in the position I was describing, where where I've been betrayed, and I want to be merciful to the other person, and yet justice must be served. Especially if I were the highest standard of justice, if I were the judge, jury, and executioner, then I could say there must be a punishment for this crime. And God is in especially the best position to do this because he cannot cease to exist. But there must be a punishment for this crime, the crime of wanting to remove God from existence. And not that we consciously do this, but our sins do reveal this, I would say, this level of treason. The punishment for wanting God to cease to exist would be that we cease to exist. And so that punishment must be paid, but God, by virtue of the Trinity, because there are three persons in one entity, God, was able to take that punishment on himself. And yes, God is innocent. God the Son, Jesus, is innocent. That doesn't change at all through this process. But by taking on the punishment himself, then God is exercising his freedom to be merciful without betraying his own justice. It is a choice that God the Son Jesus has taken in order to be merciful. Isn't that tyrannical, though? The fact that God, who was wronged, is now also the judge, wouldn't his judgment be biased? Well, who else would be the judge? The person who wronged God, the criminal? Which is more tyrannical? What's our alternative here? As looking back at the Garden of Eden, God created Adam, God created Eve, and in that situation it was just God and Adam and Eve and the serpent. And Adam and Eve both, and the serpent, technically the serpent was leading them on too. Everybody but God was the wrongdoer in that situation. What is God's judgment based on? It's based on his nature. I believe that every basis that we have for judgment, I'm just going to have to do it too high. The one high mine is not working for me this time around. Every basis that we have for judgment, I believe, is based on who God is, and I'm definitely open to discussing that. Got to get away from there. But I don't see any alternative to a judgment that is based on anything other than God's nature. I'm trying to think through. I've already talked about this in some streams, and the things I've talked about are not coming readily to mind. I'm sure they'll come up as we continue the discussion. I'm trying to think through some of my reasons for believing the way that I do about judgment. About reason is what I'm talking about. Because I pointed out in other streams that I'm very aware that whenever I say anything, whenever I express one of my beliefs, I am not, the fact that I believe something is not evidence of its truth, right? So I can say I believe something, but that doesn't tell you that that thing is true. All it tells you is that I believe that thing is true. If I say it's true that the sky is purple, then you know what I believe, but that doesn't change what color the sky actually is. And so a lot of what we believe, I think, is based on what people have told us. And I think we have this, I'm going to call it tyranny of the urgent, where our lives are limited. So it's certainly responsible to go and research everything that we've been told, but we're just getting so much information, especially in the age of the internet, from so many different sources. It's impossible to keep up with it all, especially if we're going to have lives where we're pursuing what, say, we desire or what we find meaningful also. So as nice as it would be to be fully informed, one, we can't pursue them all, and two, those sources of information are going to be other people who are not guaranteed to be true sources anyway. So that's one problem that we face was we're trying to find the truth. We can't just trust the sources of other people. And so there are people who say, well, as much as you can, trust your own senses and get your own evidence, get empirical evidence. But I think we recognize that our own senses can fail us, even if we're able-bodied, even if we have checked out our senses with a doctor. Well, there's one problem, because we're getting the standard for our able senses from a medical industry, an expert other than ourselves, who's not guaranteed to be right all the time. So how do we know our own senses are good? And then also we do know objectively that sometimes our own senses are misled. That's why optical illusions are so popular, because they prove how erroneous our senses can be. Now they're the best thing that we've got, but why is it that we would rely on those, especially since they've proven to be unreliable? And really, when we're looking at empirical evidence anyway, science, I think I've heard, so this is hearsay, I've heard that science cannot actually prove something to be true because we're using experiments. The more experiments you have, the more likely something is to be true. But there's always the possibility that you just didn't perform the experiment that would give you the data to disprove what your hypothesis is. There's always a chance that there's some reason what we believe scientifically is not true. So we have this issue of probability then, where there's always the possibility that something is going to derail our empirical findings. So the evidence we get from other people isn't reliable. The evidence we have ourselves from our senses isn't reliable. Wouldn't you say that if man can come up with better solutions than God, then they are morally and intellectually superior? What is the definition of better? So if man can come up with better solutions than God, then certainly I would say if man can come up with better solutions than God is not God. Because my belief about God is that he is the standard of morality. So if man can come up with better, then God is not the standard of morality. But how do we find out what's better? Let's see, I'm going to make some more torches here. And where I was getting at with reason is, so man's reasoning leads to probable truth at best. How would we know certain truth? I believe that we have to have an omniscient mind for that, because only an omniscient mind can count for all of the possible ways that truth could possibly be disproven. So that's one of the evidences I take for God being God, is that he is the only omniscient mind to my knowledge. So only he would have knowledge that is certain regarding the truth. Our moral conscience already shows us that being able to forgive without demanding a blood sacrifice, that is a better way of doing things. I believe our moral conscience is created by God. I don't believe it comes from evolution, because I believe that God created the different kinds of animals as they are. And yes, there's room for adaptation and change by mutation, but I believe that the world runs the way that God created it. In essence, it's been broken because of sin, and that's the only change. So for regarding moral conscience, I would say that what we humans have is given to us by God and can be altered and marred by the effects of sin in our lives. And we isn't an omniscient, all-powerful, almighty being that sees everything, the equivalent to Big Brother. Well, let me go ahead. I was responding to the moral thing first, and then I'll jump on to this next question. So, being able to forgive without demanding a blood sacrifice, to me, for me to demand a blood sacrifice, I am demanding the sacrifice of an equal, either of an equal human, or even if I'm asking for an animal sacrifice so that I can forgive your sins or whatever. That is, I believe that animals are below us, but I do not have the same sovereignty over an animal that God does. God created the animal. He has granted humanity the right to have dominion over animals. So we have the freedom based on the Bible to eat meat, that kind of thing. But I do think that there is something morally wrong with my saying, I demand the life of an innocent in order to, unless it's my life, I can demand my own life in order to pay, say, a death penalty or something. I can pay for some punishment myself without moral stigma on my own part, without my conscience being jarred by that. But for me to demand the life of something else, I did not create that something else. I am not sovereign over that something else. That would be me committing sin against that other something else. But that's because I'm not sovereign. Now, regarding omniscience, I'm glad you're enjoying this stream. I appreciate this, because I wonder about these religious topics. Society makes it a point to avoid religious topics, so I'm stepping into murky waters as I'm starting a stream like this. So I'm glad that this is a positive experience for you. Regarding omniscience, isn't an omniscient, all-powerful, almighty being that sees everything the equivalent to Big Brother? I'll get on the question I am, and then I'll cover the next question you're asking. What is our issue with Big Brother? And since I'm asking you that question, I'll give you time to respond to that, and I'll get on to your next question while you're responding to why do we have an issue with humans becoming all-knowing, omniscient, omnipresent Big Brother? Okay, isn't it immoral to punish anyone in the place of the guilty, especially the guilty? Oh, okay, especially the innocent. So you're correcting yourself for good reason, because obviously we would say punish the guilty, right? So punishment should be done, and where we say where we want that punishment to happen is on the guilty. It should be done to those who have committed wrong. Okay, so I see you've retracted the message. So I'll wait and see what your question is, then the way that you want it responded to, so that I can respond to it properly. Because I do see you had to correct something there, so I want to give you the freedom to take care of that. My pleasure, and I'm glad that you're asking me these questions, because it gives me an opportunity to check my reasons for what I believe, and to see whether I'm believing for the right reasons. Because certainly if I say something awry in this conversation, then odds are you'll catch me on it. And then I'll have the opportunity to correct my understanding of my own beliefs in the future. Okay, so why is God in a position to pass judgment on us? I feel like this might be linked to the Big Brother question. So I was asking why it is that we have an issue with the idea of Big Brother, and I know why I have an issue with that idea. Because I certainly do, but I was curious what your issue with the idea of Big Brother is. I will go ahead and say, let's say there really is a being, because I certainly believe so, but let's say there really is a being who is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Whether or not that concept is repellent to us, what does that change, assuming that there really is such a being? But I'm actually more interested in understanding what your objection would be to the idea of Big Brother. My problem with Big Brother is that it's tyrannical and oppressive. Okay, what makes that kind of person tyrannical and oppressive? Especially, let me go back to, especially if that was a real being. Say that was really the nature of some person out there. More lava. Then would it be tyrannical for a being to naturally embody those traits? Okay, good. I'm glad there was no lava behind that iron, but I think there will be lava here. Yes. So I just ought to go around the corner or something. Tell you what, I'm on bedrock level. That puts me at the level of the lava lake, so I just should dig up. Well, that bought me some time. And I'm going to have to put some more blocks in that space when I get a chance, when I run out of those 10. Big Brother is all-knowing and all-powerful and can therefore dominate the will of others and control them. So that is interesting that we have an example of, say, this entity, Big Brother, that uses their power to dominate the will of others and control them. And yet that's not something I see God doing. People sin against God all the time. Certainly God demands justice for our crimes, our treason against him. But I don't see God controlling us in the sense of changing our behavior. I'm not sure. I haven't read, what is it, 1984? Is that where the concept of Big Brother originally comes from? So I don't know in what way Big Brother in that book originally controls people. I think it would have to be limited. because Big Brother is man trying to be God. And that's my objection to it, is when man is trying to be God, then that is man, yes, being tyrannical and oppressive, because man is trying to take a place above his fellow beings then that man has no right to. But given that God by nature is omnipotent and omnipresent and omniscient, what do we do about that? Did not God give King Saul's kingdom to David because of his lack of blind obedience? Let's see, I think I'm trying to remember the passage where God told Saul that his kingdom was being given to someone else. I think Saul understood that he should have waited for the prophet Samuel to bless the battle, and did not wait for this prophet to give the blessing for the battle. Instead, gave the blessing himself. I would suggest that also is man trying to be God, because there was a priestly role that the prophet got to take. But when the king tries to take the priestly role, then the king is trying to take both roles of power. And that is something that God only grants to his chosen king. That would be Jesus. So God, yes, punished Saul for disobeying God, but he didn't stop Saul from giving the blessing. Why is it wrong for man to be tyrannical and oppressive and not God? Isn't this a double standard? Well, God does set the standard. I'm curious why it is that you're not seeming to address the question I have, which is if there is a being who by nature is omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent, what, if anything, do we do about that? Is it wrong for God to occupy that nature? I would say that for a human to occupy that nature is wrong, because the human doesn't hold that nature. That is not human nature. Interesting cave here, and someone's going to give me trouble. To answer your question, I do believe it is wrong for God to occupy that nature. Okay, on what basis? Because to me it sounds like it would be equally wrong for me to be human. Because I am human in the same sense that God has these qualities of omniscient and omnipotence and omnipresence. Okay, and I want to fight that creeper without getting swept toward him. So I'm going to empty my water bucket so I can move the water elsewhere. Whoop. On the basis that tyranny is wrong, especially when all the power rests in the hands of one individual God. So, to you, the fact that these qualities exist is by themselves tyrannical. That's what I'm gathering. So, and now I'm getting myself in trouble because I'm starting a big battle while I'm trying to talk. Okay, good. You solved that for me. So if there were, let's say there were a being that was created with these qualities, because it almost sounds like you think God has a choice about who he can be. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. On the one hand, we do say that God is omnipotent. However, there are certain logical realities that I would question. Can God draw a square circle? That would be a logical impossibility. And so I have my doubts about God drawing a square circle. So let's say the nature of reality demands that there's an omniscient mind, which I believe it does. Can God choose whether or not to be omniscient? And if God has no choice in that matter, can God be wrong for being omniscient? So if we're saying that omniscience is tyranny, if omnipresence, omnipotence is tyranny, then the alternative to God's nature then sounds kind of like a man trying to kill the God scenario. I think that I've heard that tends to be popular in fantasy novels. And I think that's interesting that that might be a possibility, on the basis that in Revelation, God talks about mankind actually trying to defeat him and destroy him, and that's always just been a puzzle for me. How could mankind think that we are capable of defeating God? But that seems to be the only alternative in this scenario. God can be wrong and therefore should be executed. And I think that's a place where I, on the basis of my channel, I wanted to give everyone the freedom to hold the beliefs that they hold, and to have whatever time they want, or even the right not to use that time to make up their own decisions. So my response here would have to be that we'd have to agree to disagree, because I firmly believe that God cannot be wrong. I believe that the reason that we say anything is wrong is because God is the standard of right and wrong. The only way that we can make a moral judgment is because God has already made that moral judgment. You're making an appeal to tyranny and oppression. How would we know what tyranny and oppression is if God did not exist? And this is something I'll have to think over more often. I'll probably be thinking over it a lot in the next week, about how the existence of God reveals tyranny and oppression, aside from him being wrong, because I don't believe he's wrong. I don't believe he's tyrannical. I don't believe he's oppressive. But I believe all that we know to be right and wrong does come from his nature. So this would be an interesting mental puzzle for me. My only response here would be, I think we disagree on this point, and it's something that I'm clearly not changing your mind. You're clearly not changing my mind, and we are definitely free to interact, given even with these disagreements, I would think. And I thank you for your patience too, for being able to ask the questions and to accept the answers I'm giving. And I imagine there are people out there who would get angry with someone for holding a belief that's different from theirs. So that's one of the things that I am concerned about on the channel, how I would respond in that situation. So I appreciate that you have not presented that situation to me. You say your stance is that our moral conscience is the standard for good and evil instead of God being the standard. I guess my question would be, we are the created being, and God has been here forever. So how can a finite humanity be the moral standard? Because morality would or would not have existed before humanity existed? That would be my question. Okay, so I have this patch of iron here. And kind of like I was expecting for this region, I'm not seeing a lot of diamonds because of that bug in the new release. The question is based on the assumption belief that God created man. So then what is your belief on that? And then my question would be, is that your personal belief, or is that a belief that Satanism would teach regarding man's creation? So that's kind of a double question there. Okay. Now I did pack some diamonds, so I could make, or no, I've got a netherite pickaxe. I could make a portal to the nether and then see if it seems very easy to get back home. I heard some footstep back there. Maybe it's on the other side of the wall, or maybe it was one of my own. Okay, so I see you saying my response to the first question is that I don't know who created man, and I'm not concerned with trying to find out. Okay. In regards to doctrines of Satanism, we believe that God shouldn't be in a power to rule just because he's in a position of power. Okay, so that is part of one of the reasons I'm so interested in running this channel the way I am, because it does give me a chance to interact with beliefs and ways of thinking that I would not naturally interact with. So I don't have an opinion one way or the other because I don't share the belief, but it's interesting to know and to think about, and I think one of the benefits to me running this channel is then I get to represent you and other Satanists appropriately if I'm in conversation with anyone about the subject. So that is very good to know. So I'm just checking to make sure there's that I've got everything that I have in the chat down there. I think it's interesting that there's a source of information about who created the universe. Now I do okay, there's definitely something on the other side of a wall here. But I do see why you would why you may not why you may not automatically land on, well, the Bible says that God created everything, given that we have these alternatives like evolution that give other possibilities. Personally, I think that evolution kind of, I've heard people say, like, kicks the can down the road. There's a lot of questions that get raised regarding evolution that I believe ultimately the logic that's necessary to answer those questions comes from who God is. But it's interesting to me that we talk about God being a real person, and it sounds like you believe that God is a real person. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that. Maybe you're thinking of God as a Christian construct. And yet the source of information on God is not the default for you, which I can. Okay, that's interesting, and it's good for me to know that that kind of thought process is there, to understand people thinking in that way. I think basically my emotional response is, well, that's different. Obviously, I don't feel a need to move away from my own beliefs based on that, and so it's okay. That's different. And let me check. If you have any other questions about Christianity, definitely I am willing to answer what I can. I'm going to check the time now and see whether... my pleasure. I'm going to see whether I'm going to... if you have no other questions, I'll see whether I'm going to close up the stream. I did have a plan for what I wanted to talk about, but I think it's going to take a whole stream for me to address. So let's see. The time now where I am is about when I would normally be closing, but I want to give you the chance, if you had any other questions, to go ahead and bring one up. So let's see. I got 20 of those. That is more than enough to start a portal. I plan to be on Minecraft for maybe this is the first of 3 weeks. So I can set up the portal, and then I can plan to use it in a future stream. No questions for now. I enjoyed the stream. I appreciate it. So it's encouraging to me that that we can have these discussions, and I feel like we have gotten along pretty well. So this is kind of validating for me as I'm trying something new here, and I appreciate the time that you've spent on this and other streams. So I think I will go ahead and wrap up, and then I'll probably find my way back to my base off stream so that I'm not keeping you here. You get to be free to spend your time doing what you will, and then I'll be back next week. And I hope you can make it, or whenever you're next able to connect with the stream would be great. I hope you have a good day. And I try to say at the end of the day, at the end of the stream, sometimes I miss it, but God bless you and play kind.